I'm Simon from Torpor. You're listening to Doomed and Stoned Latin America.
Hola, bienvenidos a Doom and Stone Latinoamérica. Mi nombre es Román Tamayo y es un placer estar con todos ustedes. Continuamos con esta serie de entrevistas alrededor del mundo. El día de hoy tengo el privilegio, el placer de entrevistar una de mis bandas favoritas de post-metal de Inglaterra. Ellos son Torpor. Así que, hello guys, welcome to the show.
Hello. How you doing? Hola.
Hola, can you introduce yourself, please?
You go first.
So I'm Lauren. I play bass and do some spoken word in Torpor.
Yeah, and I'm Simon. I play drums and synthesizers and occasionally do a bit of vocals as well in Torpor.
Thank you so much for joining us in this interview. So we always open this session asking about your first memories in music. If you remember which artist or singer had a significant impact when you were a child, can you tell us about this, please?
Let me start.
You start.
I remember when I was maybe 7 years old being obsessed with Prince. Absolutely obsessed. My uncle got me into Prince and he used to make me mixtapes. And he would have to try and make the mixtape with no explicit lyrics. And I remember he would try and tell me as a child, like, oh, this is just kind of an edit. And I didn't quite understand until I grew up, like, quite how much of a job that would have been for him to edit Prince. But I'm forever thankful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Michael Jackson. I know we can't speak of him anymore, but yeah. I basically grew up listening to like funk and Motown and R&B. So
Yeah. I mean, for me, my earliest memories of music, probably my dad was a big prog fan. And he was really into like Black Sabbath and Motorhead, lots of Pink Floyd, Genesis, all that good stuff. So I was kind of born into the riff, as it were. I think my first ever sort of musical experience was at 1 year old. And my dad took us to Glastonbury. And apparently he told me the story that he watched Hawkwind with me strapped to his chest. So, I think I've kind of, been seeped in the riff since a very young age. So, yeah, which is really nice. Having a nice musical inception when you're young. And I think throughout the 90s, I think, my dad used to listen to so much quality music like Portishead and stuff like that. So, yeah. They're my earliest memories.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. It's really nice because especially in places like United States or Europe, usually the kids grow with the rock and roll. So, but not in Mexico. In Mexico, it's different. Basically, our parents listen like Mexican traditional music and it's different. So when you discover rock and roll, it's because maybe your uncle or something, another person. So that's really, really impressive. But now tell us a little bit about Torpor, how this project born, and how is create this band in a place like the UK? Because when I travel to UK, for me, it makes sense that the bands play so slow, so deep, so dark, because UK is always cloudy, it's raining, and I can imagine a post-metal band in Mexico because here it's sunny, everybody's so happy, tacos, tequila. So I'm very curious how the environment have an influence on the sound and specifically on your specific band and sound, because your sound is so special. So I'm very curious about this.
I remember, we were living in London at the time. It was maybe like 2011. And I was just coming out of playing in like you had your band Sakura Drops, like kind of a post-hardcore band.
Yeah.
I've been playing in some post-rock bands and post-hardcore bands. But we were both listening to stuff that was a lot slower and really wanted to just make a band that was just really nasty. Like we were listening to Thou and always like obviously Neurosis, and I was really into Willhaven at that point. And I just wanted to make like the most horrible, dirtiest band we could. And so we just we didn't really know too many people in London at that point that were playing that kind of music. So we just looked online and found John. We were really lucky. yeah, it just came together pretty easily, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, our sound is something that's obviously been born over the years that we've been doing it. So, you know, the first album we had a different vocalist at the time, and she brought like a different sort of flavor to us. And throughout the years, obviously with her involved, we sort of were evolving into that sort of split EP era, like, in which we ended up, you know, losing her, and she left in the end just based on that. And so we were kind of like exploring like darker sort of stuff. I think living in London does have an influence on your psyche, and living in London and in England, full stop. Definitely. And it's a big influence. But at the same time, in that period that we were writing that, there was a lot of sludge and doom bands coming around. Some really good ones, some very notable ones that I'm sure you know of, and I'm sure most people around the world know of. We were sort of influenced by what was going on around us and our environment, and kind of where we wanted to push ourselves in a direction. I mean, John would probably say something slightly different, but I think that's kind of how I see it.
And I think we sound the way we sound because we just bring a lot of different influences into the mix. Like John listens to much faster stuff. He doesn't really listen to much slow, heavy music.
Yeah,
he listens to like a lot of depth. Yeah. Like he just loves, you know, his background would be bands like Sepultura, but also he listens to like a lot of jazz and classical music, and I like quite, you know, experimental stuff as well as the really heavy stuff. And we don't limit ourselves, like everything just comes into the mix, and it just ends up sounding the way it sounds, you know. Yeah. We're open to it going in whatever direction.
It's always quite natural, isn't it? Yeah, I don't think we ever go into it going, oh, hey, we're going to sound like this. It's just whatever just comes out. It's kind of a natural thing. Like the three people that we are, it represents the three people that we are. Comes out the way that we come out. So, I mean, obviously with a little bit of a caveat of like John loves to tune low, you know. So yeah. And he's got a great way of writing super heavy riffs. So, you know, yeah, well, that was kind of.
It's really amazing how you have different approaches to the music, and how you combine all these approaches and create this melodic but heavy, slow, even depressed for me sound. And it's really just beautiful, because everybody think that when you are depressed or sad, it's bad, and of course it's not bad, you know. It's beauty. You can find beauty on that kind of sounds. That's why bands like you, Neurosis, Amenra, are so different. So when I discovered you guys, I immediately listened Rhetoric of the Image. So I'm very curious how you guys record this album. Can you tell us about the recording process, the artwork, but also the creative process?
For Rhetoric.
For Rhetoric, yeah. For Rhetoric. It was I think Rhetoric was quite a fraught process. We really struggled with that one. Simply because there was stuff going on personally for John, and he really sort of struggled there. I don't want to speak too much on what was going on with him, but so we were kind of forced into a direction of just using a bit of creativity about what we were going to do. And like, so I ended up writing together with Lauren like 2 synth tracks to go along with that album, which we were really, really pleased that we did. It was a difficult process, wasn't it? That's one thing that strikes me the most about that album. It's very difficult to sort of nail down.
I think that album sounds depressed because we were quite depressed, like genuinely. And that's just how it was always going to come out. At the same time, I feel like that album emotionally, I love it, but I feel like it's quite flat. The new album, I think, is much raw and much more, you know, the emotion is really there. Like Rhetoric to me sounds really subdued and depressed, because that for a lot of us, that is what was going on.
There's a lot of detachment in that album.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm really proud of the tracks we did together. And I think like the circumstances of where we were at with the band at that point, it did force us to explore different things. So, you know, we just got into the studio with some really basic synth tracks and then built the rest of it around it. Like, Two Heads on Gold and Mouths Full of Water, like they were studio tracks. And for me personally, that was amazing because, you know, I had your basic drum and synth tracks, and then everything else I just built, you know, really experimentally and spontaneously. And I'm really proud of how they came out.
We need to say that we did that with one of our friends called Stephen Trepak in his like home studio, and he really helped sort of, you know, push us into like an experimental kind of direction with that, because he's quite an eclectic guy. He's got really sort of cool musical influences as well. So
I think listening back to that album, like when we recorded those tracks, we weren't quite sure how they would sit in the album, but listening to it now, like it just wouldn't work without them. And it was really interesting that actually those two tracks got most of the radio play of the whole album. And I feel like people might have found us through those tracks and then discovered the rest of the music and been a bit like, oh wow, actually they're a heavy band, not an experimental synth band.
Yeah,
I think like that. That's cool.
Movie, yeah, like talking about the imagery as well. I mean, that was a collaboration between myself and an artist we've been collaborating with for a long time now called Jack Burley. He used to be in another band called Earth Mess. They're like a post-metal band from Colchester. And he's just a great visual artist, and he's a designer as well for a trade. And he sort of helped me sort of visualize the music and the depths of like the meaning of rhetoric of the image, and the sort of the constant churning and the changing of perceptions in that disc that you see in the artwork. Just talking about, you know, the changing perspectives mainly, but rhetoric of the images, it's a fraud concept, isn't it? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, it's really amazing how you guys combine all these feelings, but also your knowledge on music, and create this. I mean, for me, this is a masterpiece. It's just beautiful. It took me a while, thanks to my friend Javier, who brought me this from the UK to Mexico. So it definitely yeah, it's one of my favorite albums. And also you talk about your new album, and it's a little different, but it's part of your sense is still there. So, or no, it's like almost the same question, but can you tell us in general words about this new album? I know you told us the big changes, even in the sound, the recording process, and for you, even in your feelings, is so different. But I want you tell us more about this new album, because it's different. Of course, it's the sense, but Abscission is just an improvement, to say something from your band. That's my perception.
Yeah. And I would say it's probably the best work we've done. And that comes from a modest place. You know, it's not like, hey, this is our best stuff ever. It just feels right. You know, it came out right. Our message carries perfectly. The feelings again, where there was a lot of strong emotion in that album. In fact, I think it oozes from the album. Where there was detachment in Rhetoric, there's no way of escaping the emotions that we're exploring in Abscission. There was a lot of facing up to things for all three of us, quite honestly. We're all getting into our 40s now, so. There's a lot of sort of self-reflection, a little bit of existential crisis going on in there. And it describes, I think we're playing around with the idea about how, you know, we all have to make, it's a universal problem that I think most people will find at some point in their lives, where you know, doors are shutting and, you know, other doors are opening, and your life choices are taking you in directions, and you find yourself wondering if what might have happened here or what might have happened there. So I return straight back there when I think about the songs that we wrote, and I get quite a strong feeling again from thinking about where we were when we were writing that album. So for me, it was a lot of personal hurt in that album from my perspective. But it's all laid bare in there, you know. It was really nice to sort of steep ourselves in the recording process for 5 days in Wales with Wayne. It was quite a real experience. Sort of the first 2 days, you're like, yeah, this is great fun. This is awesome. Third day, I was getting a bit like, stuff starting to really sort of punch home. And like sort of fourth day, I had a bit of a meltdown. And the fifth day, we recorded Carbon, and that's the song where I do vocals and stuff. And I just let it rip. I just let it absolutely go on that track. So yeah. And, Wayne was brilliant for us, because, he asked us to go to Giant Wafer. So it was a really special thing to be sort of asked to go. And he had a desire to record our third album. He's recorded all of our albums. And we were looking at who would record it and under what circumstances we would do it. But yeah, Wayne approached us and was like, I want to record your third album. I want to take you to this studio. I've got an idea about where we could go with it. And, I can't imagine having done it with anybody else now. Because, we've built this relationship together for 8 years. And, it just, when you're exploring those sorts of emotions, you kind of need to be given license to do so. When you meet someone for the first time, you probably would hold that back a little bit. So maybe the delivery wouldn't be as genuine, perhaps. And when we were with Wayne, it felt like all those barriers are down already. We all know each other well enough. And I think, again, with it, I don't think it would have sounded the same if we recorded it with anybody else. I think.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's really amazing to see how you guys create this relationship with other people, and that people can influence your sound or your perception of our music. So that's really amazing. It's like another member of the band. It's like the sound engineers, for example. Everybody, you can see the band on stage, but the other guys who make the magic is the sound engineer. So it's part of the band at the end. And I think when we record albums, it always is the same with the studio engineers, etc. So it's really interesting to see that and to hear that from you.
Yeah.
It's so important. We've always said that about Wayne, that he's always been, I think with any band, he records, like, if you let him, he will bring out the best in you, because especially for us, he's known what we have been trying to do for so long, that he heard the demos and was able to say, oh, I think it just needs, a little tweak here, maybe a little bit more of this, a bit less of this. And how about we just write a track? Because, wouldn't it be cool if it had like a track with a blast in it? And we were like, okay, yeah, cool, let's make it.
I think he felt the building tension in the studio as it was going on. And he was like, I know where to direct that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean?
And he knows how to, in his own way, he knows exactly what buttons to push to piss us off enough so that we'll make the best music.
Yeah.
And he knows how we like to work so that he doesn't piss us off in the wrong way. Like, John likes to record everything basically as a first take if he can get away with it. So what you hear on this album is pretty much John's first take of everything. Wayne mic'd up 3 different guitar cabs in 3 separate rooms, and John played the songs basically once.
Yeah.
And then just did some overdubs, and that's the way he likes to work, because it's fresh. Same thing with his vocals. He just likes to, channel what you hear. It's like, in a way, it's like the emotion of the moment channeled onto the record. Most of it is a first take, genuinely. And Wayne loves that. He won't push you to do things again and again because he knows that he'll lose something. So it just works. And he loves to, experiment in this studio. We had we had a Fender Rhodes, we had all these cool vintage amps.
Yeah.
And we just had fun, not going in with any preconceived notion about how it would sound beyond how the songs were. Just being open to how the space sounds and how what you've got there will free you up to make things sound a certain way. And it was really a great experience.
It's a special experience. Yeah. Because, we're not a massive band, right? But we had a chance to sort of get a taste of what it would be like and how, and being able to spend that like extra time on stuff really, I think, helped a lot. Yeah, definitely.
Hey, my name's John and I'm in Conan and you're listening to Doomed and Stoned Latin America.
Estamos de regreso aquí en su ya clásico Doom and Stone Latinoamérica. Estamos platicando con Lauren y con Simon de la banda Torpor. Lauren toca el bajo, Simon la batería y el sintetizador. Y obviamente les preguntamos, como a cada uno de nuestros invitados, cuáles son sus primeras memorias, su primer contacto con la música. Lauren dice, cuando yo tenía 7 años estaba obsesionada con Prince. Mi tío me hizo un mixtape, obviamente sin las letras explícitas, pero cuando crecí pues entendí que él las había editado y pues trataba como de protegerme, ¿no? Porque Prince era a veces muy explícito en ciertos temas. Dice, también me gustaba mucho Michael Jackson, el funk y el rhythm and blues, y dice, eso es con lo que yo crecí. Y dice Simon, dice, para mí fue un poco diferente. Dice, mi papá era bien fan del progresivo, así que yo escuché a temprana edad a Black Sabbath, a Motorhead, a Genesis. Y dice, mi primera experiencia con la música fue cuando tenía un año de edad. Dice, mi papá nos llevó a ver a Hawkwind en el Glastonbury. Imagínense qué locura haber estado viendo a Hawkwind en el Glastonbury. Y pues bueno, después de esto les preguntamos sobre Torpor, cómo nace este proyecto, y probamos un poco sobre el medio ambiente, porque Inglaterra es un lugar donde llueve mucho, está nublado, siempre es oscuro, y creo que la música de Torpor y de otras bandas pues refleja mucho ese medio ambiente en el que se desarrolla, ¿no? Porque la música es muy obscura, muy lenta, muy densa, incluso depresiva. Entonces pues les preguntamos cómo el medio ambiente de Inglaterra influye sobre el sonido de la banda. Y dice Lauren, dice, en 2011 estamos viviendo en Londres, y bueno, teníamos una noción, una idea de hacer una banda lenta. Estamos escuchando muchas bandas como Doe, Neurosis, y dice, pero no conocíamos mucha gente que tocara o que le gustara este tipo de música. Pero fuimos muy afortunados porque en ese proceso nos encontramos a John, que es el guitarrista de Torpor. Y dice, bueno, para el primer disco tuvimos un vocalista, pero al final dice, pues no nos siguió, no entendía de qué iba el proyecto. Así que bueno, eso fue un parteaguas para nosotros como banda y decidimos hacer pues un trío como tal. Y bueno, dice, en cuanto al sonido oscuro, definitivamente vivir en Inglaterra sí influye mucho, pero también influye lo que estábamos escuchando en ese momento. Por ejemplo, dice, teníamos diferentes influencias, claro, nosotros como Sepultura, música experimental, Fuzz, sludge, y bueno, creo que la combinación de todos estos sonidos de manera natural hizo que naciera nuestro propio sonido. Nunca quisimos imitar a ninguna banda, y bueno, esto que tocamos es la representación de los tres. Así que pues bueno, yo ahí pues como que hago un comentario respecto a que muchas veces el estar triste o el estar deprimido se toma como lo más negativo, lo peor que pueda haber en el universo, pero en ese mundo de tristeza también hay belleza, y lo vemos con bandas como Amenra, como bandas como Neurosis, y bueno, Torpor es un claro ejemplo de eso. Y hay un disco que a mí me encanta, que es el Rhetoric of the Image, y pues les pregunté cómo fue el proceso de grabación, el proceso creativo, el arte. La verdad es que es uno de mis discos favoritos de post-metal, y quería saber todo detrás de este disco. Y pues bueno, nos cuentan Simon y Lauren. Dicen, en aquel tiempo pues John estaba pasando por un tiempo muy difícil, tenía muchos problemas, así que cuando hicimos este disco pues fue realmente un reto, fue muy difícil poderlo hacer. Dice, el disco se siente un poco depresivo porque es un reflejo de nosotros, en realidad estamos deprimidos, no sabíamos qué iba a pasar ni a dónde íbamos a llegar, así que el hecho de que lo sientas o lo percibas así es real, eso es como muy crudo. Y bueno, dice, cuando empezamos el disco teníamos tracks muy simples, algunos ritmos de batería, y con eso llegamos al estudio y fuimos construyendo poco a poco lo que tú escuchas. Fue algo muy espontáneo, fue algo que salió de nuestros corazones. Así que, pues bueno, eso es algo increíble, ¿no? Ese proceso creativo que llega cuando menos lo esperas. Y bueno, dice, a nosotros nos gusta mucho el álbum, quedó muy bien a pesar de todos los problemas, estamos orgullosos, pero creo que se escucha muy plano. Dice, nuestro nuevo álbum Abscission creo que es mejor, es más crudo, es más potente. Y bueno, respecto al arte, dice que Jack Borley fue quien se encargó del diseño del disco. Él como que ayudó que la música hablara a través del arte, a través de la foto, y pues bueno, le dio como un significado nuevo, un concepto diferente a lo que ellos habían creado. Y justamente hablando de su nuevo álbum, pues también queremos saber todo lo que hay detrás de esta nueva producción. Abscission es el nuevo álbum de Torpor, acaba de salir hace poco a través de Bandcamp, está disponible también en vinil, lo pueden comprar a través de su Bandcamp, torpor.bandcamp.com. Y bueno, respecto a este disco, dice Simon, no quiero sonar pretencioso, pero sin duda este es el mejor trabajo, se siente muy bien. Dice, creo que el proceso de composición fue muy buen trabajado, el mensaje que queremos dar, los sentimientos, todo funcionó a la perfección. Sin duda fue un proceso muy diferente al disco anterior, y por supuesto siempre tenemos que afrontar problemas. Dice, ahora pues somos adultos y pues tenemos que reflexionar sobre dónde estamos, sobre lo que hacemos. Dice, en realidad este disco es una extensión de nuestras crisis, y se ríen obviamente los dos. Dice, pero es importante hacer ver, ¿no?, que las decisiones que tomamos pues también tienen consecuencias, y este disco justo trata de ver como esa parte del crecer, ¿no?, de hacia dónde vamos. Y dice, para este disco pasamos 5 días en el estudio, en Giant Warfare Studios, y bueno, dice, los primeros 2 fueron como, sí, muy animosos, pero después ya como del tercero como que había un poco más de presión, y empezaron a cambiar las cosas, y pues estar en un estudio te vuelve loco porque tratas de dar lo mejor de ti y a veces te frustras y no te salen las cosas. Entonces es un proceso muy difícil. Dice, el último día grabamos Carbon, que es una de las canciones que vienen en el nuevo disco, y pues bueno, fue como parte del proceso. Dice, Wayne Adams es con quien hemos trabajado para nuestros discos, ha sido como el productor, la persona que los graba, y dice, él es una pieza importante de nuestro sonido, no me imagino grabando con alguien más, hemos construido una relación desde hace muchos años, nos conocemos muy bien, él nos exige mucho, sabe cómo sonamos y nos lleva siempre al límite para poder crear cosas mejores. Él siempre nos está retando y es algo muy bueno porque él justo nos saca como lo mejor de nosotros. Y pues bueno, él prácticamente es el que hace que encontremos siempre nuestro sonido. Y dice, con Wayne pudimos experimentar mucho, probamos diferentes amplificadores, sintetizadores. Fue una buena experiencia y nos sentimos muy felices con este nuevo álbum. Así que bueno, eso es lo que nos cuenta Simon y Lauren de la banda Torpor. Vamos a escuchar una canción justamente de este nuevo álbum y ya regresamos para la segunda parte de esta entrevista aquí en Doom and Stone Latinoamérica. Ya se la sabe, préndase, sáquese algo, gózala.
Hi, this is Piotrek from Torpor. You're listening to Doomed and Stoned Latin America.
That's amazing. And also, probably this is a good advice, especially for bands in Latin America and Mexico. You spend a few days on studio, not just 1 or 2 days. Usually here in Mexico, the bands spend 2-3 days, and that's it. And one is because it's expensive, but if I think in the coast, it's more expensive in the UK, trust me, than in Mexico. But it's really interesting that you take the time to record the album. It's not 1, 2, 3 days and that's it. I mean, you have the perfect time to experiment, to expand the sounds, to change probably, amps, microphones, etc., etc. So I think that's a really good advice. And well, guys, talking about gear, can you tell us in general words about the gear that you use to play on live? That will be really cool to hear how you guys can create these massive sounds on live. So can you start in general words, probably some pedals, some cabs, guitars? I mean, it would be cool if you can share that with us.
Yeah. So I mean, none of us really. I mean, Simon loves gear and he's the drummer, but he's always wanting to make us buy new things. Me and John don't really care that much about gear, but I love what I use. I'm not a gear geek at all. Like if it sounds good, I'm happy. But I always use an Ampeg 8x10. The Fringe, that's my cab. And I've got an old PV, like solid state head, which I love.
It's Mark 6.
PV Mark 6, but they're all great, like PV solid state. They're indestructible.
Yeah, it's fucking massive.
And then for pedals, I just have it quite simple. I have a Rat pedal. I've got a Boss distortion. I've got an Eterna reverb, which I first saw Tanya from Bismuth using and just could not resist getting that because they just have such an amazing reverb sound.
It's awesome.
And then just the delay with a looper, Boss delay with a looper. So a lot of the kind of reverb stuff will be like looped reverb and looped feedback from the bass. And that's pretty much it. Like it's pretty simple from my setup. I think John and the bass is a Warwick, so Warwick Thumb 5. And I think people are obsessed with bass tone, and people always ask me at the end of the show, "Oh, what's that bass tone?" But I think a lot of it is from the Warwick. Like it's just how that bass sounds. Yeah, it sounds really gnarly. Like even with not that much done to it.
Yeah. People don't generally associate Warwicks with doom, right? They go like, well, that's a funk bass, right? Or what?
They sound amazing.
But it's just, it's a massive sound, right?
John just has an Epiphone 6-string.
Les Paul, 6-string. So,
he has a pretty simple pedal as well. He has,
he has the head gain.
And he just uses Marshall cabs and head.
Whereas Marshall JCM 900 he uses with a 1960 cab. It was a 1990 setup, which is, it's kind of grungy setup, like from the old 1990s. It's great tone comes out of it. A 900, strangely, is probably a bit like cleaner than you would expect, but he does it up with like a sledgehammer, which is like one of the sort of distortion fuzz pedals he's got. But it's like dual gain. He's got the first stage of gain is the true gain from the head, and the second phase is that sledgehammer pedal, which is just gnarly as hell. So it's just like well, holy crap, yeah. And then he just runs that one head through to Marshall 4x12s. It's the result is pretty crushing. It's got like a Hall of Fame reverb as well, which is really nice. I don't know if that's TC Electronics. I can't remember.
It's not like none of the stuff we use is that fancy.
Yeah, and I think the drum kit that I use, it's a Tama Superstar from the 90s again.
Massive.
It's a 24-inch bass drum, 14-inch racks on, 18-inch floors on. Which is just beautiful. Tama just make the best drum kits for that sort of stuff, especially the old massive stage tones, like, from the 90s. They're just boom, absolutely massive. And the synth I've got is, it's Arteria Mini Brute. I'll just run like a bass overdrive and the basic sort of reverb pedal, which is, does the job. Just running through a cab, like a bass cab. It gives you all that low end rumble. Great for drones. So yeah, that's what we use.
Wow. It's simple. It's not too complicated, especially because now in these days, stoner doom and all these kind of genres, everybody wants to use the biggest amps and the craziest pedals. And I think simple is the best results. And you're an example of that. And well, guys, in Mexico and Latin America, we have the perception of all the bands from Europe, the UK, have a lot of opportunities because you have a lot of these festivals like Radborn, Desert Fest, the Sonic Blast, etc. But can you tell us how's the real life or how's the real deal for underground band in the UK? So because we have this perception, but I'm not sure if it's true. Of course, we have the opportunity to travel there and we play some festivals, but we realize it's not easy. But tell us about your experience in the underground scene in the UK and in Europe too, please.
Okay. I think in the UK we have quite a different experience to Europe because the kind of underground shows, they're not really funded. It's all very DIY. I think in Europe there's money, there's like funding and grants, arts grants. But we don't, I mean, we do have that in the UK, but for this music scene, I think, that's not relevant. So it's very DIY, but it's a really awesome community. Like, I don't use that word lightly. It feels good. We've been making friends and playing for a long time now, so we know a lot of people, but people just help each other. Promoters help you out. We help other people out. It feels nice. There's still, there's obviously like a lot of gatekeeping, and sometimes you're not in with certain people or whatever, but on the whole, like it's a nice community. Yeah. But I do feel like in Europe things are different. There's more money going around. I mean, we haven't been since Brexit, so I couldn't speak for how it is now.
Yeah, I think like for festival opportunities and stuff, I mean, you need to know some people. You need to like do a bit of networking and stuff like that. There's work involved, I don't think it comes, I mean, you guys had probably like a good amount of relative success, if I'm quite honest, when you've come over here.
Yeah.
So it's, we've got a few festivals lined up. I'm not going to lie. We've got some stuff under our belt at the moment. We can't quite announce just yet. But yeah, I mean, it is tough. It's not easy, but we sort of collaborate with people quite a lot about putting shows on or, working things out. Like we work out our own tours and stuff, typical underground band stuff, right? We're organizing our own tours. We're organizing where we're going to stay. We don't have a massive, tour rig and van, and a massive budget for that. We're driving ourselves generally in a hired van or whatever. But yeah, generally, the community around us in the UK is supportive, helpful, and generally, out there to look after everybody, and we all try to support each other as much as we can. So yeah, that sums it up. It's really nice. I hope someday you guys can come to Mexico, Latin America, and you will realize how lucky you are. At least you have venues. At least you have some engineers in Mexico. Yeah. We play in bars, and it's just fuck. Yeah, rough. That was rough. Yeah,
it's terrible.
Yeah. We would just come. We would love to come, but yeah, we don't take it lightly. Yeah. We are lucky. Yes. We're lucky that we have the network around us to make it easy.
And we've got obviously the venues as well. Although they're trying to take all these venues out of town centres and city centres, and replace them with flats and stuff. So, it's just, culture is, in the city, right? People are just, I feel like there's a lot of capitalist movement to try and take those things away, turn them into like prime real estate and for people to live in, because, the culture that was there makes it prime real estate, right? If you replace that with just residents, you lose that culture. So, yeah, the venues, I'm sure, like you say, we're lucky. We're very lucky.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoy to visit the UK, guys. You're one of the most amazing people. I mean, I really wish you have tacos, but you can win-win.
Sorry. We wish we had tacos.
No, but seriously, it's really amazing, guys. And thank you so much for your amazing music. And I have one last question because we left a couple of minutes. This is more like a personal question for you. So in your daily life, what values or actions guide your life? For example, love, family, to be honest, support each other. And what advice can you give us to become a better human beings?
Profound question. I know that's a profound question. Yeah.
Everything is interconnected. So no action exists in isolation. No body exists in isolation. No thing exists in isolation. Everything you do ripples out beyond you. And that's the thing that I hold in my heart when I'm doing anything. Because it matters. Connection matters and interconnection matters. And there's a phrase that I like called interbeing. You know, we are all interbeing with everything and everybody else. And that, you know, if you hold that in your heart, that is your guidance. Wow.
Beautiful words.
What can I say after that? I mean, I would probably, echo that. Remembering that our relationship to each other and where we live on this planet Earth, is more important than, the constructs of money and power. That's what we need to remember, is that we're all important. Money is not. How we live and breathe is the most important thing, and how we treat each other is most important.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's really amazing. And I believe the same as you guys. Support each other is the key, because sometimes for example, in the big cities like London or Mexico City, you just go out and you to your work and you don't care anybody. So when you realize that probably when you turn your head and you smile, you change the life of somebody. And as you say, we are connect, we are the same, and we always forget that. And if we support each other and just with small action, it's not about the money, it's not about big stuff, it's just like, for example, if you visit your local store, you are supporting somebody, and you are, that's the key of the life, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The community is key, People make a difference.
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, guys, tell us about your next plans with this album. Are you going to tour? Are you going to come to Mexico?
Come and let's play in a bar in Mexico.
We come and play a bar with Vinny and Sebastian, man, for sure. Absolutely. We love it.
I mean, for real, before you answer the question, we're going back to live a festival. It's called Doom City Fest. So probably in a couple of, 1 or 2 years, it will be a real chance to probably bring you to Mexico. So just keep that on mind. But it's very probably to bring you. I'm not kidding.
Well, we'd love to come. Absolutely, that would feel absolutely special.
We've just done some shows in the UK. We're just about to do a couple more. Playing in Nottingham and Leeds next month.
In support of this album. We've done 2 separate runs for the support of the album. So we did a couple of 4 dates in October. We're doing another 2 in Leeds and Nottingham. The 10th and 11th of November.
And then we're supporting Portrayal of Guilt in Manchester, December the 12th, which would be amazing. And then we're also playing in Manchester in February for a little festival. And then as far as plans for 2024, they haven't been announced yet, but we're working on some fun things. Yeah, we're trying to work out some fun stuff. Yeah, we want to go over to Europe and we want to go to Scandinavia. So we're coming to Scotland at some point. There's a lot of Scottish people saying we don't come to Scotland, so we're coming to Scotland.
It's really nice. Yeah. We play at Banner Manson. It was really amazing.
Oh yeah.
Really good.
Yeah,
really good. Guys, well, Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining us in this interview. We really appreciate it. We try to spare the word of these underground bands here in Mexico and Latin America. And we try to do the same in the opposite, that you guys know bands from here, from Latin America. Because as you say, we are the same, we are community, and we need to support each other. And even if not all the people speak English, music is a language. So you don't need, for example, to know the lyrics to feel something. And for me, that's one of the beautiful things of music.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we appreciate everybody that's listening.
Yes, thank you very much for having us. It's great to be asked to come on to your show. And all the best to everybody in Mexico and Latin America. Thank you.
Hola, I am Paddy from Nod, and you are listening to Doomed and Stoner Latin America.
Estamos de regreso aquí en Doom and Stone Latinoamérica. Esta es la parte final de esta entrevista con Lauren y con Simon de la banda Torpor desde Inglaterra. Y vamos a ñoñar un poco con ellos. Definitivamente queremos saber qué equipo usan para crear esos riffs masivos, esa música tan brutal, que ya les pusimos algunos ejemplos en este especial. Y dice, bueno, Lauren, ahí les va la lista, apúntele, porque ella dice, cada vez que termino de tocar, todo mundo se me acerca y me dice, ¿cómo tocas? ¿Con qué tocas? Suena brutal el bajo. Pues este es el secreto revelado. Lauren usa un Ampeg 8x10, usa un PV Mark VI de estado sólido, también de pedales usa un Rat, una distorsión de voz, un reverb, un delay y looper de voz también, y su bajo es un Warwick. En realidad dice ella que ese es como parte del secreto, el bajo, el Warwick es el que tiene todo el punch. En cuanto a John, pues bueno, usa una Les Paul de 6 cuerdas, un Marshall JCM 900 de los años 90, y en realidad son 2 los que usa, y también usa un pedal, un Sledgehammer, que pues bueno, es un pedal bastante chido, y usa 2 gabinetes Marshall 1960 4x12 y también un Hall of Fame Reverb de TC Electronics. En cuanto a Simon, pues bueno, él tiene una batería, una Tama Superstar de los 90s, un bombo de 24 pulgadas, tom de aire de 14 pulgadas, tom de piso de 18, y aparte de eso también tiene un sintetizador, tiene una Arturia, un Mini Brute, y bueno, a través de lo conecta siempre a un gabinete de bajo. Ese es el secreto, las armas con las que cuenta Torpor para crear estos sonidos masivos que nos encantan y también a veces muy depresivos. Los amamos muchísimo. Y bueno, la siguiente pregunta para ellos es, ¿cómo es ser una banda underground en Inglaterra? En México o en Latinoamérica tenemos esta percepción de que en Europa es muy fácil porque hay todas las condiciones, todos los festivales. Entonces les dijimos, ¿realmente una banda local puede hacerla, por decirlo de alguna forma, tan fácil? Y dice, pues bueno, nuestra experiencia es muy diferente. Inglaterra y Europa, refiriéndose como a, no sé, a España, Alemania, Holanda, a este tipo de países, pues bueno, es muy diferente ese contraste. Dice, en Inglaterra no hay realmente muchos fondos, muchos pagos. Los shows son DIY, hazlos tú mismo. Dice, mientras que en Europa sí hay todas estas condiciones, hay más pago, hay más formas de trabajar ahí. Y dice, pero estamos hablando esto antes del COVID, no hemos regresado realmente a esa parte de Europa después de que atacó el COVID. Y dice, bueno, la cosa más increíble de Inglaterra es que hemos podido crear una comunidad muy bonita, conocemos a mucha gente y todos ayudan. Y dice, pues bueno, si quieres tocar en algunos festivales, definitivamente tienes que tener algunos contactos, conocer a algunas personas, crear una red de trabajo, lo cual es difícil, lleva años. Nosotros hemos tratado de hacerlo, hemos colaborado y pues bueno, hemos tratado de tocar y también organizar shows para amigos. Siempre nos estamos adaptando a las circunstancias, lo que hay. Y dice, a veces no nos damos cuenta de lo afortunado que somos al tener esta red y también los venues, porque pues le platicamos justo que en México pues hay bares, no hay venues, y los que hay son muy difíciles. No cualquier persona, cualquier banda puede acceder a ellos, te cobran mucho, es muy complicada la situación en México, mientras que en Inglaterra pues hay venues y es más fácil encontrar un lugar donde tocar. Y dice, la verdad es que nos sentimos afortunados, pero también hay un problema, y es que los políticos y las inmobiliarias están intentando quitar estos venues para hacer departamentos y por supuesto obtener grandes ganancias. y lo que no se dan cuenta es que realmente están cortando o están quitando parte de la cultura de la ciudad, lo cual, pues bueno, al final de cuentas es como perder un órgano vital, porque el arte, la cultura, pues van ligadas, y si se pierden estos lugares se va a perder algo muy importante en la cultura inglesa. Y pues bueno, lo tenemos súper claro, ¿no? Desde las bandas como The Who, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, o sea, la tradición del rock es pues desde hace muchos años. Entonces el perder esto sin duda afectaría a muchas bandas, no solo el underground, sino pues la oportunidad de que esas bandas crezcan y exploten. ¿Dónde va a estar el próximo Led Zeppelin si no hay dónde tocar? Pero bueno, vamos a cerrar casi esta entrevista. Siempre hacemos esta pregunta, nos gusta conocer la parte humana de nuestros invitados y siempre les pedimos un consejo. ¿Qué consejo nos darían para ser mejores personas y en su vida diaria? Pues qué acciones o qué creencias tienen para poder, pues justo esto, tener una buena vida, ser mejores personas, superarse, etcétera. Y bueno, Lauren contesta primero y dice: creo que todo está conectado, ninguna acción o cuerpo están aislados. Esto hace que nuestras acciones importen porque justamente están conectadas. Y dice: eso es lo que yo llevo en mi corazón. Y bueno, siempre hay que recordar que las relaciones entre nosotros son más importantes, mucho más importante que el dinero y el poder. Y eso es lo que siempre hay que tener en mente, cómo tratamos los unos a los otros y no perder pues esa humanidad de cierta forma. Y finalmente les preguntamos qué planes tienen con este disco. Obviamente los invitamos a México y nos encantaría ir sin duda, y hablamos de la posibilidad de que en algún momento puedan venir al Doom City, este festival que va a volver muy pronto. Por cierto, espero noticias. Y pues bueno, dice: vamos a hacer algunos shows en Inglaterra, en Nottingham, en Leeds, en Manchester, y pues bueno, tenemos muchas sorpresas por ahí. Lo más seguro es que vayamos hasta Escandinavia y hagamos un par de shows por allá. Y bueno, se despiden y agradecen mucho pues a todos los fans, a toda la gente que los ha seguido todos estos años. Y bueno, pues nosotros les recordamos que nos pueden seguir en nuestras redes sociales: Doom and Stone Latinoamérica, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Nuestra compilación gratuita la pueden descargar a través de Bandcamp, Doom and Stone Latinoamérica. Lo mejor del 2023, 100 canciones están disponibles de manera gratuita ahora a través de Bandcamp. Y pues bueno, nos queda todavía una entrevista más con Astro Queen, espérenla muy pronto. Y mientras tanto, diviértase, pásela muy bien con sus familiares, los queremos mucho. Gracias por acompañarnos este maravilloso año, por estar con nosotros en todos estos proyectos. Y bueno, les mandamos un abrazo muy grande, ya se la sabe, préndase y por supuesto, gócela.
Hey people, this is Hanno from Mantar, and you're listening to Doomed and Stoned Latin America.